Hello, on to Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest secured their first Premier League point under Ange Postecoglou at Burnley today. A decent draw on the road or 2 points dropped. Joining me to have their say this evening is Chris Aylmer from Forest All Over. Half of Forest All Over, it says on screen. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah. Thought I'd give some credit to my other half of the podcast who's never around. But no, I'm all right. Yeah. Look, stops the rot a point, but obviously there's positives and negatives in the game. I'm sure we'll get into.
Do you need to put the heating on at home? You look like you've got a snood on and a jacket.
Do you know what? It is freezing.
It
is actually freezing, and the heating's broken in this house that we're in. So we have electric heaters, so we're trying to keep the bill down. So that's the truth. Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know, and good to have you with us. Mark Sutherns, how are you?
I'm a bit warm in here, actually. I need to get the fan on. I'm joking. I'm all good. I'll take that point. Happy what I saw. Not all of it. There were some things that we'll talk about and pull apart, I'm sure, but I certainly don't leave that game disappointed and disgusted as some may be, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
No, well, we'll get into it certainly. Dan Cook stepped into the breach at the last minute when Mark couldn't do the stream, but Mark can do the stream. But Dan's still here, and it's good to have him with us. How are you doing, Dan?
Yeah, I'm all right. When you messaged me just before half time, it was like, this could go either way. There could be loads of drama in this game, and then that didn't come to fruition. So I was looking forward to a dramatic post-match, but it was fairly steady. And yeah, in any other season, you'd think that's just a solid point, wouldn't you? Probably.
Yeah, well, there's so much debate and division, certainly. All right, Chris, you kick us off then. What are your general thoughts on it?
Overview is naive first half. Very naive first half, I felt, in terms of like we looked wide open, particularly either side of half time. And the other side of the half time in the second half as well. The goal, good to get a goal early on. Came on strong at the end, last 20 minutes. But like ultimately, I'm just really, I'm watching that kind of game behind the couch because it's like, you're creating a lot and you're pushing forward, you're creating a lot of chances, but at the same time, you're sat back thinking, where has this sort of defensive frailty come? And, obviously Zinchenko's inverting and Neco's pushing forward, and it's a completely different style of play. And obviously we're yet to fully see it work. Obviously Ange has only been in the door a week and a half, but like it does scare me watching these games under Ange. I'll be honest. Like 18 months, we played a completely different style of football for the last 18 months under Nuno, and now under Ange it's completely changed. And while that chance creation goes up, we just look so open at the back. And my thoughts are, it's just every game is heart attack stuff. It seems.
I was pretty chilled out second half. First half, I was nervous, but second half, I thought that's 20 minutes. I thought we were all right. Once we got that, I thought we were going to concede 20 seconds into the second half, but after that, I felt a bit more chilled out. I hear what you're saying about them. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking stuff at times. Do we have to, Dan, forget Nuno's style of play? It's gone. This is it now. Strap yourselves in, and it's going to be, end to end. As you see, occasionally things are going to go very wrong. Sometimes they'll go very right. Is that a fair mindset, or is that the wrong mindset?
No, I think that's the reality of it. Probably reluctantly for me personally. I'm probably on Chris's side of it a little bit in terms of the style of play, but I didn't think today was too bad. I thought we managed it fairly well, and I think the reality is, if you go to Burnley as they are now. As that kind of Scott Parker side, you probably need to play that way. Otherwise, you're likely to just come away with a 0-0 draw. So, I think we did need a little bit more front foot. We did need another way of trying to create chances. I think today it was the final third that didn't really work for how much of the ball we had in the end. So, yes, we left a few opportunities and a few spaces for them, but we just didn't create enough to sort of justify the possession we had, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think so. We'll get into the wingers certainly. What's overall then, Mark? People are divided in the chat, saying, "Oh, it's Burnley and all that stuff. It's Burnley, lads." I think that's the wrong attitude to have personally. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's expectations. It's like we did our predictions, didn't we, at the start of the season? And I predicted a point at this game, even when Nuno was in charge. I just think this is a tough place to go, and it has proved to be. Liverpool struggled to get the win, and I don't think any team's going to go there and roll them over 3-0. So I don't know what people expected from the game today. I wanted to see some progress that Ange had started to get his style and principles applied, and the players were using them, and I saw that. And I wanted to come away making sure we didn't lose the game, and that's exactly what happened. And we go from here. It's none of us, when we did our predictions at the start of the season, oh, we're going to be top 6 or top 8. I think the highest prediction is 12th or maybe 10th. So what does a team that finished 10th or 12th get at Burnley away? Probably a point. That should be. I don't understand suddenly why our expectations, when we've got the European game midweek as well to come, are that we should go there and trounce a promoted team. It's not like that this season. They're not getting trounced. Leeds have just beaten Wolves on their own ground. It's much tougher this season beating those promoted teams, and I think that we should look at this as a sign that it may be just small steps so far, but there's some progress there, I think. And I don't think we were wide open or anything. I think this is the way we're going to play. We're going to play with jeopardy in our game. So watching us is going to be more uncomfortable than watching it under Nuno. We've got to get used to that. That's just the way it's going to be. But we will see some nice football and we'll score some nice goals. We'll concede as well. Hopefully we'll win more than we lose. And that's who we are now. I won't say mate at the end of that.
I do think the manner of the point, as you look at it, like, I think we should have won. Burnley probably come away with it the happier of the teams, because I think we had more chances, which we'll get into. And the other thing about Burnley is I don't think they've got a huge amount going forwards in terms of quality. Like Foster works and Anthony has moments. But if you look at their defence, Dubravka's a really solid keeper and he played well. I thought Kyle Walker was their man of the match, despite him being much maligned. And I don't think he should be anywhere near the England team. The left back's good. I've never seen him before this season. And Estev is someone who I think is going to play for, certainly top half team. I looked him up. I didn't even know how old he was. He's only 23. So I think he's a really good, solid defender. So they're no mugs. I think, a draw, it's okay. It's not a great point or anything, but it's not a disaster. It's something, it's all right. I think is it, Chris? It depends on where we go from here. If we can build on it, we've got Betis. Is Sunderland the game that, someone said if Burnley's not a must-win game, then what is? I mean, Sunderland probably now is one that we probably do need to win, I guess, isn't it?
100%, because you can't go into a game against two newly promoted sides, albeit better newly promoted sides than what came up last year. You can't go into two back-to-back games and not get one win out of them. So 4 points is probably the minimum is what you should be expecting from a team that finished 7th last year that now has a better squad than we did last year. That's just the facts. And like today, a point, it stops the rot. That's the positivity about it. And that's probably why some people are like, it's all right, because we've just had our tails between our legs after midweek massacre down at Swansea late in the last 5-10 minutes. And also that game against Arsenal where no one's really to blame. They're an absolute top class outfit. We're just in a bit of disarray last week with the new manager coming in and everything. But ultimately people will be disappointed because we're looking at both these games and we have the squad to beat them. And that's, I suppose that's, we can list Kyle Walker and Dubravka and say that they have some good players. Yeah. And it is a tough place to go. Before coming into this game, I didn't think we'd win the game. That's the honest truth. I didn't, because Burnley had a really good game last week against Liverpool. They did. They played really, really well. And Liverpool won with a late penalty and Burnley nearly got a point away at Old Trafford. Not that Man United are any good, but do you know what I mean? All that is inclusive in the context of this game, but still, I suppose people are disappointed because the expectations were high going into the season, and we haven't seen a win since day one. So, Sunderland's a massive game. We have to win it. We should win it. We won't take them lightly. They've had a good start to the season. They're more points than us, but we have to win it. Otherwise, Ange is then 3 or 4 games or 3 Premier League games out of win if we don't win against Sunderland. So Betis now on Wednesday, have to beat Sunderland next week. Have to.
Do you think we should be talking about a win, Dan? The Callum Owendo chance at the end, I thought he should have scored. Am I putting too much on him there?
No, that was the big chance in the second half for us. In the first half, I think the Chris Wood chance, I think he should do better with that, where he can turn and shoot. Like last season, he would find the corner. And then, I think would be 2-1 at that point, and we could have probably built on that. So I think we did have the 2 big chances that last season they go in, and we come away with a 2-1 win, and it's kind of a classic Forest away performance. This time, we were a bit more huffing and puffing, so we should have created more so that we didn't need to be as clinical. I guess that's what you need with Ange ball, isn't it? You're going to create more, but you still have to be a certain level of clinical. Otherwise, every mistake at the back gets punished, and you do sit there worried. So you can't. You can't spurn as many chances as not. Well, we didn't have loads of big chances, but half chances that we had today. You have to make a slightly better decision on a couple of those. So I think the Calimuendo one, he probably does need to take a touch so that he can find where the space is to find the back of the net rather than hit it. But he seems like a player that just needs a goal. I think if he gets one goal, I feel like he could settle and do well, because he's in the right place. He was in the right place against Swansea as well, wasn't he, for one late on? So I think he's in there. It's just he just needs that goal to potentially kick him on. So yeah, I sort of take Chris's point about the worry at the back end, because Burnley didn't have the quality. Against another team, yes, you would be even more fearful, and you really would need to take one of those chances, because I think a better team would have probably snuck a second goal as well, which would then make those misses more important.
460 people with us, which is lovely in 10 minutes. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. That'd be appreciated. Dream start, Mark. Neco's goal. Were you expecting us to go on from there, or is it just too early to know what we can expect from anything from this team?
Yeah, I was expecting us to get a second, because we were on top. In the first 15, 20, I thought we were dominant, and then we kind of took the foot off the gas a bit towards the second part of the first half. But I still felt that we went in at half time and we were playing good football. We were looking like we could pick them open and create a big chance, and we didn't. We started the second half poorly, and they were out the traps fast, but we wrestled back control at the end and could have won it. I mean, it was a game that kind of ebbed and flowed, didn't it, as far as we're concerned? And I think a lot of games under Ange will do. I mean, I was listening to Tottenham fans talk about it, and they say they never felt like they had control of games. They had periods where they were on top and periods where they were up against it. And that might be what we've got to get used to. It's not going to be, us getting an early goal and managing it for 80 minutes like Nuno managed to do. It's just not going to be that way. So I did expect us to carry on and maybe get a second and go on from there. And we didn't do it. We didn't take the chances. We didn't create enough from wide areas. I think we'll probably get onto that. And the chances we did create weren't high quality, but yes, they were going in, some of those last season. I mean, Chris Wood was scoring goals well above the XG, wasn't he? And maybe, that people were pointing to the fact that we were overachieving in that respect. Maybe we were, and maybe, it's not as easy as we made it look last season sometimes. So, yeah, we should have created more from wide areas. I was disappointed that we were moving the ball well. We were getting the wingers one-on-one, certainly in Doy anyway, but he wasn't getting the better of Walker. And I think that was the key battle that he didn't win. And if he had got on top of Walker and got more out of him, we possibly would have got that second goal in the first half.
Okay, let's talk about the wingers then, because that was probably, to me, the one area where we were most sorely lacking. I won't blame Dan entirely for this, but Dan, what do you make of Dan and Doy then in this game particularly? It feels like I just want. It's kind of a frustration with Elanga as well. Just take your man on more. It looks like a lack of belief that he could beat Kyle Walker to me.
Yeah, there was a bit of that. I thought at times he got a good cross in. There was a couple of times he got a good cross in that Wood had sort of gone ahead of. But yeah, there was more chances for him to get past. Well, to try and go past Walker. I think our best moments did come through him. Like, he did win the corners and stuff like that would get us up the pitch when he did try and take Walker on. And I like the fact that he's flexible, that he can drift across the pitch and he can play a bit more centrally and link up play. But yeah, there just wasn't enough end product, and there is a room for improvement. And I would have thought we'd get a little bit more from him in that kind of game where he can be given the license to go, because he's playing on the left as well, which is where we normally give that winger the license to go for things, and he didn't quite do that. And then unfortunately, Bakwa was kind of quite anonymous on the other side, wasn't he? In terms of, apart from that shot, he just didn't get into the game at all. So it wasn't in the end probably the right choice of wingers, I think. But yeah, at the same time, we saw in the second half when Hudson-Odoi came on, he tried to sort of take their left back on, didn't he, and knock the ball past him, and he just didn't have the pace. And I think that's where you are seeing the difference that an Elanga would bring in that kind of game, where you get that one opportunity, and we just don't have that elite sort of pace, do we, now?
No. No, I thought Hudson was always pretty good when he came on. It's like, I think he's working quite hard. He's working. I think he's working harder this season defensively than he was asked to last season. Just his quality isn't quite there. But I thought he was quite bright. On back with then Chris. I mean, I was happy he started. I thought he'd earned the start. Is it just a case of a young player not taking his opportunity this occasion? Would you say?
No, I think Burnley set up really well. I know their game plan kind of went out the window when we scored early on, and I thought that was going to be the opening of them. But no, I think back had a couple of bright moments first half. You know, he went down the byline, put a ball in, and then the other chance was that lovely move that we did where Gibbs White laid it off to him and he hit it, and Dubravka made a really good save actually low. So I think he had a couple of bright moments first half. Look, the wingers weren't inspiring in general, so it's hard to pick out one or two who were good or bad, but I thought he was okay. I just think he's obviously, that's the kind of game where, you know, we play Swansea on a Wednesday championship side and it's open and he's just dominating the ball. I think he probably got a bit of a wake up call there to say, oh, Burnley away, rain, they're sitting back absorbing. He probably was like, oh gosh, you know, they're doubling up on me. I think that was probably what got to him a bit, but I thought he was still quite decent. I don't think he was poor at all. He was just okay, and he had a couple of really, really bright moments. And Doy for me was, you've already spoke about him, but he was the one where I thought there's moments where his touch lets him down. He slows the ball down when he shouldn't. He wasn't quite as strong. He was losing the ball on the right or the left, depending, even when he switched sides. It just wasn't working out for him, and he just seems a little bit rusty. And I know he has those great moments because we've seen them already this season, but he's the one for me that's lagging a little bit behind the other wingers.
Adaptation period, Mark, from Italy. Am I giving him too much of an excuse there, do you think? I don't watch enough Serie A football to know if the physicality difference is huge between the two leagues, but is Ndoye just adapting or not?
Yeah, he needs to get physically stronger. He needs to gain confidence. And, you know, we need to give him time to do that. So he has got the tools to succeed in the Premier League and in our team, but it's going to take him time to adjust. And I think we'll see a better player next season. Simple as that. So we've got to be patient. Again, it's expectations. Will we expect him to come in and be Anthony Elanga? No, we shouldn't be, because he's not. And we said when we lost Anthony Elanga that was a player that was going to be incredibly hard to replace in terms of output. And yeah, that'll be the case. So we just got to be patient. We have got options though. So we've got the ability to bring players on who've got fresh legs like Callum showed and make a difference. So if Ndoye's not working, change it up, you know, so we've got that option now. So I don't know. We'll see who starts in midweek, and we'll see who starts against Sunderland. But, you know, we've got Hutchinson there and we've got Callum there who didn't start today, who are now options. So fortunately, we're not in the situation we were last season where we don't have anyone on the bench when Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson aren't performing or take dip in form to replace them. We've got that now. So we're in a good place for that. We just need to give Dan and Ndoye a bit more time.
More moments, more players, and more subs to talk about. But just before we do that, a word for the Trent Navigation. They are not hosting. You can watch the game against Real Betis, not hosting it, are they? You can watch it in the Big Shed, and they are teamed up with Madrid for a big giveaway. You can get a free pint between 6 and 7 p.m. If you arrive in time. I think it's about 500 they're giving away, and it's happy hour between 6 and 8 anyway, so you'll get discounted beers. So don't need to book, just head down, enjoy the game if you're not watching at home or lucky enough to be in Seville. And thanks as ever for their support. We'll talk about more players. This probably leads into Zinchenko, I guess, Dan. Their goal, it was scrappy, wasn't it? That was a really frustrating goal to give away. Also, it was going wide, wasn't it? The shot, I thought it was.
I don't know. When I saw it back the second time, I thought it was going in. But I mean, that was kind of one of their worst chances, and it ended up leading to the goal. It was just kind of a bit of a floated ball in. I think Bakwa should get out and, you know, put a bit more pressure on the cross in that one. I do think we could have done better there. And then I think Zinchenko does that thing that fullbacks sometimes do, where they don't know what's behind them, but they just sort of plant themselves. They don't jump for the ball. And I don't know which Burnley player it was, kind of came over the back of him to keep the ball alive. And I kind of feel like he could have made a bit more effort there to try and win that ball and make it more difficult. And then obviously the last bit of it, I don't know. You know, when you're running towards your own goal, trying to divert a ball when you're not sure where it's going, I don't think you can necessarily blame him for that last bit of it. I think he's just trying to do what he can do. And I guess the credit to him is that he gets onto the line to try and be in that position, which is obviously, you know, what you want your defender to do. But I think the first bit of it, he should do a bit more to try and win that ball when it's floated in and, avoid the situation coming around for me. The rest of his game, though, I liked what he brought in possession, but that defensive bit is always the worry with him. He's not going to necessarily be that strong defender in those situations.
Yeah, I think so. I think he sort of sums us up a little bit. Nikki, thanks for that. I saw Chris waving. I assume at you for saying that she.
I actually didn't see that, but I was waving away a fly. But that's great. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks. There you go. I'll put that on the screen for you. There you go. Zinchenko, Chris. Yeah, I feel like, as Dan said, like on the ball, stepping into midfield, really good. Without the ball, the position he vacates and his general defensive work. Is it a big worry? Is it another this is the way now kind of thing?
Yeah, like defensively, it is a worry because I remember I listened to you on a podcast a couple of weeks ago when he signed, and you'd messaged one of your Arsenal fan mates, and he said defensively he's really worrying, but on the ball he's great when he's inverting, and it's exactly what we got. We got what we kind of expect, but for me, it's just look, and I know that we're going to be passing the ball out from the back a lot more, and I know we're going to be having a much higher line, and I know we have to adapt, and I know we have the players to kind of adapt a bit more than we did last season, but like watching that goal, that was recycled, and I messaged you this. That was recycled from a phase of play where we tried to pass the ball out the back. Zinchenko lost the ball in possession, and then it went around the other side and went over the top, and we conceded. So trying to do the strategy that we're looking to do cost us, in my opinion, a goal. And then it's just you look at later on in the game, and I know a few minutes later, maybe in that half, I messaged you this as well. Sells picks out those balls that he picked out so many times last season to Wood, and Wood takes the ball down, lays it off to midfield, and we break and we get a corner. And that happened twice in the space of 5 minutes where Sells picks Wood out. I'm not saying we have to do that the whole game. I'm just saying while we're adapting and tweaking this strategy, giving the ball to Zinchenko while Walker's breathing down his neck, maybe not the smartest decision on a rainy day at Burnley. And I know we have to adapt, and I get it, but like sometimes it's just it was a struggle for me. And defensively, Zinchenko, look, Walker kind of had his number sometimes when he was pushing high as well. He had a couple of decent defensive moments, but for the most part, I was concerned. And it wasn't because he was leaving space in behind. It was because I felt he was fragile when it came to that side of the pitch, particularly first half. He was overlapped a couple of times as well. And I'm not trying to slate him, but like defensively, yeah, I was worried. I was scared. But on the ball, he was great. So I suppose that's kind of a metaphor for what we're going to be watching from now on. Is on the ball, it could be great. Defensively, it could be a real worry.
It's interesting about what Chris said there about the style of play. Feel free to weigh in on Zinchenko as well. But there were a couple of times, as mentioned, when either Sells went long, and there was one where Milenkovic tried to pass it, it got cut out, and then the next time, about 30 seconds later, he went long and Wood chested it down. And that happened a couple of times and got us into good positions. Is it the case? Like, let's not abandon the whole low percentage football completely, because it did pay off for us quite 3 or 4 times in the first half.
Yeah, hopefully we do mix it up, and I think when you've got Chris Wood in your team, you have to. I think Chris Wood played pretty well today, other than missing that chance in the first half. He held the ball up on 3 or 4 occasions really well, link play really well. So I thought he was effective. We just didn't get him enough service. We got him that one chance, and as we said earlier, last season he was taking one chance and scoring. So, but yeah, I think with Chris Wood just centre forward, you are going to be able to use that out ball now and again as well. And I didn't see anything today that made me think we've outlawed that and we're not going to do it. The only thing I would say is we were taking all the free kicks short, which obviously isn't going to suit Chris Wood as much as throwing the ball into the box. Every free kick we got out wide, it was taken really quickly, and we were, trying to build something short with passing rather than getting the centre backs up and trying to get something from the set piece. But maybe there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of where we're going, right? That's what we will expect to see. Zinchenko, yeah, he's going to get murdered on occasions this season. That's clear. You see that today, that he wasn't up against, I would say, any kind of fierce opponent in terms of a speedy, tricky winger. That was Anthony on the other side, really, with Neco. So I fear that there are going to be games where, we are left exposed and he's run ragged down that side. And it's going to be down to, can the benefits that you bring to the team in terms of adding to the numbers in midfield and his passing, can that unlock more goals than we concede from him being frail defensively? That is probably the world we're in now, yeah.
Wood's interesting, Dan, I think, because he's getting some hammer on Twitter. I think everyone is, from what I just had a quick look. I actually thought his first half was good. We'll come on to his subs. I thought he stayed onto the pitch a bit too long, and second half wasn't so good. But I thought he had a fair bit of value today. I don't know. What did you make of him?
Yeah, the link-up play was good. Like the moments you've picked out, I think they were good, and I don't think he made any errors on the ball that you would expect him to control or do better with, which is what you want from your centre forward. I don't know whether he's adapting to a slightly different role with what Ange is asking him to do.
He stayed high. Sorry to cut in there.
Yeah.
Normally, under Nuno, he and Morgan would drop in and form a two, and we play a narrow midfield. I noticed he stayed high the whole time. Are you waving at a fly again, Chris? I don't know. But he did stay high.
No, I was agreeing with you and saying they were pressing. They were pressing. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan, and fly waving.
So I guess we might see a bit less of him if he's doing that, because he'll probably see even less of the ball if we're sort of building behind him and he's trying to keep a bit of space, push their defense back so we've got some space to build. Then we might see even less of him, apart from in the box, hopefully. But look, I didn't notice him either way. I guess I thought he just did what he needed to do to keep things moving, apart from the chance that I would have liked him to have taken, and apart from maybe the frustration for me is just that link up with Ndoye. Like I say, a couple of times Ndoye did put good balls in, and at the minute I've seen it. We saw it at West Ham as well. Wood kind of went ahead of the cross, and it just feels like there's that little bit of link up between those two as well, which could be better once they know what each other wants and is going to do. Which obviously we had with Elanga last season, which is where Elanga fed Chris Wood for so many of his goals. So I think there's a bit more to come from those two as a partnership. But then when you see. When Jesus did come on, that header was, a brilliant header when he came on. So, I mean, it's great to see that kind of level of finishing and ability coming off the bench anyway. So, yeah, maybe Jesus should have come on like 10 minutes earlier to give him a bit more opportunity to do something like that. But, yeah, Wood overall, just a standard sort of striker performance in a game where you're trying to create things out wide mainly.
Yeah, I don't think he merits the stick he was getting. I thought he was fine. We'll come just before we get to the subs. The other interesting thing about that chance mark, unless I'm remembering it wrong, was Milenkovic stepped into midfield, then ran through midfield, and then passed it into him. That was very un-Milenkovic, and another sign of the changing times.
Yeah, and there were times today when I was like, oh, what would happen if we had Murillo on the pitch? Because let's not forget that Murillo is someone we rely on to pass between the lines and find people like Gibbs White on the half turn. And I think if we'd have had that today on the pitch, it could have made that difference. It could have unlocked that big chance that we didn't quite create. And I think, to their credit, Morata and Milenkovic tried to do a bit of that. That's not their strength by any means. But there was a couple of times where they both stepped out of defence and beat one or two players and tried to start attacks, which, we don't want to be relying on them to be doing that. That's not their game. Murillo can do that. But yeah, it was a good passage of play, and for Chris Wood, that's a good chance. That is a good chance. He's normally an instinctive one-touch finisher, isn't he? And he just didn't get a clean contact with it, and he'll be thinking about that tonight as the one chance that he wasted. And yeah, I mean, it's not a poor Chris Wood performance, is it? Chris Wood, when he doesn't score, doesn't have a major impact on the game unless he's linking play, and I thought he did that aspect better than I've seen him for few games actually. So I don't think he had a poor game at all. And I think that when Murillo's in that team, when we're bringing the ball out of defence, we'll see the difference.
If people can hear banging in the background, sorry, my daughter is getting ready for a birthday party disco and she's making an absolute racket, and I'll have to mute myself, I think. So apologies for that. Is this where we disagree about Morata a bit? I can see, where's the comment? Oh, yeah. Pete Brockwell, I thought Morata was pretty good overall. So, Mark, you thought he's all right. I worry that he doesn't have sufficient quality to play this style of play, and he makes me a bit nervous. But
I totally agree with you. I
accept there's a big drop-off, and there's always going to be from Murillo to whoever's doing that role. And maybe Ange is going to tell him to play that way, but I kind of wish he wouldn't. I just like that pass when Morata, like 20 seconds into the half, and it was way too easy to go through. Then Zinchenko's flat-footed, and then Morata plays an absolutely stupid ball. And there were a couple of other bits. So I don't know. What do you think about partly Morata and partly just asking the centre halves to play this way?
Yeah, I mean they're not ball playing centre halves, are they? Neither Morata or Milenkovic. So to get good defenders who can play the ball and be comfortable on the ball, Romero is one. And, Van der Ven less so, I would say. He can run with the ball, but he's not the most cultured player with the ball. So Postecoglou had one such defender, and he relied on Romero to bring the ball out and pass between the lines. And that's, I'm sure, what he's going to ask Murillo to do. Yeah, you can't expect Morata to come in and replace him. Murillo's a freak. Murillo's a unique defender, right? So we're very lucky to have him. We can't expect Morata to come in and replace him for that. But I thought with the defending, with the no-nonsense stuff, I thought he did okay today. I thought he had an encouraging game. He showed enough that he can be, our third or fourth choice centre-back and come in when we do have an injury. But he will have those moments when he'll worry us. Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think he is suited to the way that Ange wants to play. I agree with you. But I just think he had a decentish game today, and he had his moments.
There's a chap in the comments, Ahmed, who's asking about a million times if there was an injury, and did you have a bet, Ahmed, on if there was an injury or something? Because he keeps asking if the medical teams came on. I didn't see it, and it's just a bit strange that you've asked every time. No, I don't think they did. So there you go. Just on the subs, Dan. Nuno got some flack for making them, a bit late, a bit conservatively. 59 minutes here for Bakwa. Was it 74, 75 when he made the triple change? I like the triple change, but could he have made it 10 minutes earlier?
Yeah, I think so. I think when it got to 65 minutes, I was looking at that point and thinking, what are we going to do? And mainly in the central midfield area, because I thought Douglas Luiz was starting to tire and look a bit leggy. He wasn't getting into those advanced positions as much. So I was thinking, well, what are we going to do there? Because our only options are to go a bit more defensive, really, with either Sangare or Yates. But in the end, that kind of worked a little bit in that it freed Anderson up, bringing Sangare on. So I think that helped. But yeah, certainly for the winger subs, I would have probably thought, having seen how the game had gone, make both of those at the same time earlier on, around that 60 minutes. Calimiendo did quite well when he came on, I thought. We gave him the ball a lot, and he did all right with it. So I think, yeah, it was a little bit later than I'd have liked. And I was surprised that it was later than 60-odd minutes, given that we've got the other game on Wednesday and that we played the other day. You'd have thought he might have done it a bit earlier so that it was more of like a 60-minute performance for a couple of those players. But yeah, I suppose that's always a complaint, though, isn't it, subs? It's always like, 10 minutes here or there you think is going to make this massive difference to a game. It may have made absolutely no difference at all, but I would have probably done it earlier.
Yeah, I think so. Just as well, because it was a heavy pitch. It was chucking it down. Like Dan says, we've got a game Wednesday. Quite a few of these lads are going to play in that. Of the subs then, who put their hands up for you, Chris? Igor Jesus is getting some praise in the chat. What did you make of the subs?
I thought Jesus was really good. I did. We look at the games he's come on and made impacts in. Now Palace hit the post there, scored a couple of goals starting there on Wednesday. He seems to be much better in the air than we probably thought he would be when he's first come in. Great header at the end. There was one point where the ball went into him and he held it up really well, turned one of their players, and was strong against one of their centre backs. Can't remember which centre back it was, but he was really strong. I thought he was good. I thought he was running the channels well. Yeah, I think he was the bright spark off the bench. Sangare did okay. Sometimes he scares me when he holds the ball a little bit too long, particularly when we're playing that sort of high line. But he was okay. He was decent enough. And then Calamendo was lively as well. I thought he was good. I know he had that chance and could have taken the touch, but he was decent. Jesus is the one that stands out for me, though. Yeah, I thought he was really, really, really good today. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Jesus and Calamendo from what I've seen from them so far, certainly. I don't think we could ask any more of Jesus for that header or Neco for that hit from the edge of the box, could we, Mark, really?
No. I mean, good saves from Dubravka, there's no doubt, particularly the Jesus header. And it was, you'd think by heading down in those conditions that would be enough to take it beyond the keeper, but I guess it wasn't quite in the corner. It wasn't just, it gave him a chance in it, and Dubravka made the save, and the Neco Williams one was another good save. So, we created, the encouraging thing was we didn't sit there with 20 minutes to go and go, oh, let's just manage this out and take the point. We did try and win the game. So for me, that's what we've got to do, because we've got quality from the bench to bring on to affect games in that period when teams are tiring. So we've got to try and wrestle superiority against many teams in that period, because we've got the players to do it. So yeah, I just think that we didn't carve out that big opportunity. Calamondo's chance perhaps was that one, and he wasn't composed enough. I'm concerned that he's getting brought on as a right winger. We were told before we signed him, he's a striker, he's not a right winger. If you play him on the right wing, you won't see the best of him. And yet we keep bringing him on to play wide. I get it that perhaps he brings that little bit more in terms of likelihood of scoring a goal than Hutchins, and he certainly does. And he got in the box and had that chance, so he's got that instinct. So perhaps that's why he's getting the nod there. But we need to give him a chance down the middle, don't we? Which is going to be difficult when Igor Jesus is performing off the bench as well.
Ange does like, I keep referring to this probably too much, but players arriving at the back post for tap-ins, and that was what Callum Wendo should have done. Really, it wasn't a tap-in, but when you look at how the goals that Spurs scored last season under him, there was a lot of that kind of work it to the byline, pull it back low, and that's what probably should have been talking about. So I can sort of see why they brought him on. It is interesting. Hutchinson's not in the European squad, and he didn't get any minutes today, so perhaps it reflects a pecking order emerging. I'm just talking of things kind of emerging and thoughts forming, Dan. Is this wishful thinking? But maybe if we played this game in a month, a bit more fluency under our belt and knowing what the whole plan actually is, would we have won this or not?
Yeah, I put in some of my notes that there was a bit of hesitation at times in our play. I thought Anderson in particular wasn't his usual self at moving the ball quickly as forward as he often does. There was a couple of times he got caught on the ball. And I just think there's little signs like that, and Doyen Wood link up that I mentioned. There's plenty of room to improve on what we've got now. That's partly down to the manager, partly down to the influx of new players that you'd have had anyway. But I think, there's a period of understanding to come and a period of confidence as well to the players, because I guess they're taking on a whole load of new instructions, and I just think that means you are going to see mistakes and errors because they second guess what they should be doing from what they have been doing for the last 18 months almost. So there's definitely, in any manager and in any club that's brought in 13 new players, you're going to have a period like this where you're not going to see the clinical nature of what we saw last season. So yeah, hopefully this is just that little bit of momentum that we need. The game in midweek is massive in terms of, a positive result there. I think completely shifts the mood on where we are because it's Europe and our first game and all that. And if we back this game up with a good performance and a win against Sunderland, then all of a sudden I think we forget a hell of a lot that's gone off over the last 2 or 3 weeks, hopefully.
Christian, a good question in the chat. We shall get to that. You've read my mind. Chaotic was a word I wrote down in my notes, Chris. It feels like they want to do things. They don't really know exactly how to make it happen just yet. So that was one thing I wrote down. Also, as Dan says as well, the narrative hasn't moved either way much today. I don't think people who are down on Ange are probably still down on Ange, and I think people who are more positive are probably still maybe wishfully positive. What happens on against Betis and against Sunderland is going to be big for the manager in particular, isn't it, in the next 6 or 7 days?
Yeah, massively. Obviously, first game in Europe, as Dan said, and then that game against Sunderland at the weekend. I think the bottom line as well is like the Premier League. We can't just keep bleeding games out in the Premier League. We've played 5 now, have we? And just won 1.
Yeah, 5.
And we've won 1. And I know Nuno was in charge for the first 3. I'm just saying that that we should be doing better than that. With this squad and some of the games that we've played so far, particularly West Ham at home, maybe even today. But so the Premier League games is going to be massive. I think the European games, if we can win a couple, win those 2 games, or even just get a good result in Betis and show a good performance, I think that'll help Ange out a lot, even if at the weekend next week we don't do well. But for me, I always look at the Premier League. That's the mark of consistency. And if we're rolling into the next international break and we're languishing on 5-6 points, that's not good enough. But the next 2 games are huge. I know I'm sure we'll get into this, but I actually think we're gonna get a big result away at Betis in Seville. I know you're going out there. I think that'll be a big result for us. And as Dan said, that could carry confidence into next weekend. But yeah, I just want things to settle down. As you said, chaotic is what you wrote in your notes. And it does feel chaotic, and it feels chaotic on the pitch and off the pitch. And I know we're going to be watching that chaotic football from here on out, but I want that to be a bit more of a controlled chaos, maybe first season Ange rather than sort of second season Ange and now as it stands.
I agree. Just before we get to final thoughts on man of the match and wrapping things up, Christian's question was one that we're going to get to. Any thoughts on the midfield 3, Mark?
Yeah, there were signs that they can work well together. I thought Douglas Luiz for the first hour was really strong, and I think that probably got something to do with the fact that Elliott has got to get used to playing with another player who's capable of dictating the game, because that's what Douglas Luiz is. He's a player who wants to get on the ball and wants to be available. And those two have got to get used to playing with each other and working together. And that was the first time, they've been on the pitch together in a senior game. So, it's expectation. What do we expect? Do we expect them to have an immediate chemistry and it's all free flowing? No. So, it's going to take time. But there's no doubt we've got two incredibly gifted central midfield players there. And so when you put Morgan Gibbs-White in there as well, who, isn't going through his best period for us, but I've got every faith it will come back through that and we'll see some good stuff from Morgan again. We've got a very gifted midfield three. So, that's going to be something that carries us to better results, hopefully.
Morgan's getting some more flack today. From the brief bit I saw online after the game, I thought he was all right, Dan. I think he was tasked to play very close to Chris Wood. I thought he had some good moments. I'm not saying he played massively well. It was a steady, okay performance, but it feels like some of the stink from his last couple of games is hanging around and people seem to be attaching that to him a bit too much to me. What did you make of Morgan today?
Yeah, there were a couple of iffy moments in the first half. There were just a couple of times that he either ran into trouble a bit and then played a bit of a blind pass or miscontrolled it. And I think what everyone's expecting from him is a performance where he actually stands out to the point that it kind of quietens down all the rest of the noise so far this season. And this wasn't it. It was okay, and there was a couple of bad moments, and there wasn't enough highlights to kind of turn the narrative around him, I guess. I thought he was busy like he always is. And there was one good set piece in the second half, I think it was, like quite late on, where we did play it short and we worked it well, and he was getting in the box on the end of those things and trying to put the ball across and stuff. And that's what you want him to do. But at the end of the day, he's probably judged on that actually turning into an assist for Wood or someone, isn't it? And, puts the number up and all of a sudden things change for him. So he didn't stand out either way for me today. And I from what I saw of McAtee against Swansea, I'm not rushing to try and make that change. I'd rather play Gibbs-White into form, personally, from where we are.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I'm not like going overboard or particularly against him or anything. I thought he was okay. I don't think he could have done more with that chance at the end. It was in a difficult position on his weaker foot and he hit the target. I don't particularly hold that against him. Right, just before, have some thoughts about man of the match there, chaps, and then we'll take a quick word for Nottingham Window Company. Thanks as ever for their support, very much appreciated. If you're looking at new windows or doors, do click the link in the description and check out their website, see what they can offer you, and thank you very much to them as normal. Right, man of the match, Mark, kick us off. Who was your standout?
Neco, I think, because new role for him. He was playing narrow. There was space in behind him, and he was up against Anthony, who was probably he is Burnley's best attacker in my eyes, and he's a player who's caused problems to other defences. So I thought Neco showed energy. He was up and down the pitch. He adapted to the new position pretty well. That's not going to come naturally to him, but I think he had a good game. And his energy was really important to us throughout the game. And at the end, he had 2 or 3 crossing opportunities and was still getting forward, still pouring forward, and he had that effort and nearly came away with 2 goals. So I think I'll give it to Neco.
Drop your names in the chat and I'll put a few on screen as well. This is online. That's the wrong chat. It's just when a comment drops in, just as your thumb moves, you always put the wrong one up. Graham says Neco Williams as well. Chris, man of the match for you?
I have Milankovic. I think that he does all the thankless work, and you're playing against a Burnley side on a rainy day where set piece defending is massively important. I know we had a couple of wobbles, 1 or 2 set pieces early on, but they were putting it right on the keeper. I thought he was really good, really well organized, did there on the ball, has Morato next to him rather than Murillo, so he's got that to sort of contend with. Not that Morato's bad, but just he's not Murillo. So I thought he was really good, and there was a moment that displayed it for me. Was like, he's playing high on a high line, passing the ball around, never really made too many mistakes when he had it in his feet. Obviously made that chance for Chris Wood as well. But that moment where he chased down, I think it was it Loyal Foster? He chased him down the back end of the right-hand side of the pitch, and he won the ball back, and he was first up and just and gave a nice pass there straight away. So just for me, Milenkovic, brilliant. All the thankless, tireless work that you see in those rainy days in Burnley. So yeah, Milenkovic for me.
A couple of people saying Dubravka in the chat, but if we're picking from the whole team, I'd say the whole match, I would actually say Kyle Walker. Although Dubravka was very good. Forest man of the match, please, chat. Forest man of the match. James Bradshaw says Neco as well. Dan, for you,
I was actually going Milenkovic as well. I thought he did what we needed today. Although we were pushing on a bit and giving him a bit more space and all that, he adapted quite well to it. Like you say, involved in the build up to that chance, and generally won all of the battles he needed to win to kind of stop chances from going from a bit of space into a real big chance for teams. So I think I was going to give it to him. I can't think of anyone else that stood out consistently through the game. Whereas I think he just came in and did the job we needed him to do. So I go Milenkovic.
Perhaps it's that kind of performance. Milenkovic is always the one or almost always the one I default to if it's been an okay performance and not too much more. So yeah, although Neco was my man of the match when the first thought entered my head, because for the reasons Mark explained, could have had 2 goals, got up and down the line well. Anthony was a tricky customer. I don't think he's got the end bit of quality that really elevates him, but he's quick. So yeah, Neco, my man of the match for me. Right. Final thoughts on where we're at. How are you feeling about everything before we log off? Excuse me, Chris Aylmer.
Yeah, like obviously look, the balance in me just wants to say we're going through a transitional period, but like ultimately, every time we've had a new manager in, you see that impact. Cooper a few years ago, big impact early on. Nuno beat Newcastle and Man United away. Newcastle away, Man United in his first week. And I'm not like expecting that from Ange, but like I am expecting us to beat Swansea on a Wednesday, and I am expecting to go away and beat Burnley. So the impact hasn't been there yet. Obviously, we're seeing, a different style of football being implemented, and we're in a bit of a flux at the moment. But like, yeah, look, I'm not worried to the point where like I think we're going to be in a relegation battle or anything. But I am, upset that we're just going to bleed out some of these Premier League games and not end up where we should be in the top 10 in the Premier League, or at least top 12. So look, I'm hopeful. I'm excited about Europe. That's the one thing I'm really excited about. I think we're going to do really well this week in Europe, and I think hopefully our Ange's ball style of play works for it. But yeah, like at the moment, it's one of those things where you're watching the games and you're like, you just don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not built for that. I've had 24 years outside the Premier League with Forest, watching all these heart attack games. But yeah, look, I suppose I'll have to just strap in and jump on for the ride, eh?
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same. Yeah, it feels all a bit of a precipice still for me that could go either way. And I don't know if today told us too much, but it was decent. Dan, how are you feeling?
On this particular game, I think we were robbed by these modern woke pitches where the ball doesn't skid and slide and bobble under goalkeepers. I think if we'd have had an old school Burnley pitch, we'd have probably seen one of those chances go in the bottom corner, and it would be a different picture. But on the bigger side of it, I don't know which way it's going to go, because I think you've seen today the style of play, but you've also seen that you still need the basics, don't you? Whatever your style of play, whether you're a bit more front foot, whether your fullbacks are pushing on and all that, you're still going to have to take chances and stop teams from, getting too much joy inside your 6-yard box. So we kind of did a bit more of one of those today, but we still had that moment where we could have probably defended a bit better, and you end up with a result that it's down to those moments, regardless of everything else that we talk about, almost regardless of styles and philosophies and motivation and all that. It's just, we need to get back to a performance where everything just goes right for us. And I think we can build on that. Chris mentions Cooper. Obviously, there was that Bristol City away game where things just went for you, and all of a sudden the mood and everything changes. And ultimately, I think any new manager needs one of those moments. So hopefully that is Betis this week.
Hopefully so. Mark, final word to you.
Yeah, I'm calm about it. I think that when Ange Postecoglou's coming in, in the early stages, the early matches, the bad stuff is going to be more apparent than the good stuff. It's going to take longer for him to apply the principles that are going to work for us to get results than it is for the frailties and the weaknesses of his system to show themselves. They're showing themselves. You know, we were caught with our fullbacks narrow and gaps in behind, and a better team than Burnley probably would have scored more goals than Burnley did. But we have to accept that and give it time for our squad and our players to adapt to each other and to the way that he wants to play, and have faith that that will lead to positive results. Now, that will likely lead to a season where it's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be tough to deal with. We're going to lose games that we should have won. We're not going to win those games where we just manage it out for 80 minutes and it feels comfortable. We're not going to be in that situation. We'll have to deal with that. And our expectations, although we've got a bigger squad and a better squad, we're not going to get higher than 7th this season with European football, in my opinion. I just think we're going to be settled in mid-table. It's going to be a season of transition, and we're going to have to get used to the way that Ange wants to play. Now, the alternative to that is you can be anti-Ange and anti-Morgan Gibbs White, get on top of the team, and every time you see something bad, go online and rage about it. But I don't see how that's a positive thing that's going to help the team or the fan base. You know, we've got to be united in backing what this new football is, get behind it, and hope that it turns around into positive results. And to do that, it's going to need time. So let's just get through this period of bedding in, let the players get to know each other and the way they want to play, and look forward to the good results. And let's hope it starts at Betis.
Yeah, you've struck on what I was thinking all along there when you were talking. Like, some fans aren't going to accept what you're saying there, because quite a lot of fans some of this does feel a bit Cooper to Leicester to me. Like, some fans just aren't going to have the manager unless we go on a crazy run. And I'm not sure we're going to. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I feel like it might be a bit up and down. And I hope that there's patience there. I'm not sure there's going to be. I can understand the frustration because we got excited after a great season, but it was an overperforming season. And I also think the whole attitude, and I said this on the post-match show the other game, of talking about trophies and ambitions and all that stuff is great. But I think it raises expectations too much in a sense, especially at a time when it's tumultuous and there's too much flux and there's a lot of change going on. Because I think we have to take a step back, and instead of thinking about winning the Europa League, let's think about getting something at Betis, and let's definitely think about beating Sunderland, because there's so much danger of walking before we can run, or running before we can walk. Sorry, but yeah, it feels like people are getting a bit giddy, and it's not an easy time at the moment. And patience isn't easy to have, but I think we might just have to have it. And hopefully, this was a step in the right direction, and it wasn't just another little bit of another nail just starting to get knocked in the coffin. I don't see it that way, and I thought it was okay today. And let's see what we can do at Betis. Right, we'll be back on Monday. Not sure exactly what the plan is, but we will be back on Monday, and then we'll have as much as we can do through the week. David Prutton, if you're watching this, respond to your messages and tell me if you can do Monday or not. Right, if you've enjoyed this, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon, or just a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Chris Aylmer, any final words, any quick plugs you want to do at the end, if that's okay?
Yeah, I've just written that in the private chat there. I never write in the private chat. Yeah. Look, you're obviously going to Seville, and there was a bloke, Satch, who set up Fan Park UK with a couple other people. They're doing a fan park out in Seville. They're doing a fan park out in a couple other places as well. I said I'd give them a quick plug. Obviously, it's a fan park out there. They've got DJs, hosts, lots of music and fan content. So get your tickets for it. If you are going out to Seville and you are going to enjoy us beating Real Betis away, because I believe that we will, Fan Park UK, just check them out and get some tickets. And other than that, look, the point stops the rot today. It does. I mean, despite me being worrying and that sort of worrying feeling as always, it does stop the rot. And I think if we can go to Europe now in Seville on Wednesday and get a big result, we will have confidence coming home, and Ange will have his first home game against Sunderland. It has, to be fair, it has been tough. He's had 4 away games in a row, which is difficult. But yeah, look, big results hopefully on Wednesday. Thanks for having me. And yeah, the point sort of stops the rot for now.
Dan, anything you want to plug or anything like that at the end?
No. Chris has got away with one this weekend on the old
come on.
podcast prediction league. Because he was the only person who predicted a defeat, but luckily he's got away with one there. At least it was a draw, not a win.
Well, hang on, Dan. Just to be clear here, right? I was the only one that predicted, but I was as right as the people who predicted a win.
True.
Chris,
So,
Chris,
yeah.
what else did you get wrong today?
So I took Neco Williams out of my fantasy football team,
Put him on the bench.
and he scored within 2 minutes. It was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Took Chuff out as well from West Ham. He got an assist. Absolute shambles. And then Wood obviously was my striker, and he missed that chance. So, yeah, just a disgrace all around in terms of predictions. Don't ever ask me for predictions. I'm not good at them.
Mark, do you want to plug FPL, even though it's absolutely...
No, I just want to tell Chris that Neco Williams also got 3 maximum bonus points as well. So
lovely.
It's all right. I did really badly. Oh God, it's not going
I'm
well.
doing so badly. Terrible. I'm just checking the Man United scores. Hasn't
Yeah,
helped
that's a
as well.
shocker as well. No,
I know. Seen who scored and
Sanchez got
who.
sent off.
Palmer's off.
Sanchez got sent off as well.
Yeah.
So,
Sanchez got
Yeah.
sent off. I think
Fine.
Casemiro's been sent off. Yeah.
I
sorry,
have Bruno.
people.
I have Bruno though. Which is
Oh, you've
good.
done
You
well
have
there,
Bruno,
Chris.
I don't.
Yeah,
I transferred Dorgu out for Lacroix, although he got a clean sheet last week. Yeah, it's all going badly in the world of FPL. So I'll just do a wild card in Seville next week just to really make my wife happy. I'll spend ages on that. Right. Thanks very much, everyone. Enjoy your evening. Go and watch the United game. It sounds a mad one, but thanks for your company. Hit like before you go. And if we don't see you on Monday, we shall see you soon.